So in this series, we're talking about security across a number of different technologies, from server networking, storage, and a number of other infrastructure pieces as well. Today, we are focusing on server security and the recommendations that you can be putting in place to improve on your server security. In a world where cybersecurity risk and people trying to infiltrate, attack, hackers coming in, data being leaked out of businesses, it's imperative that you put the right systems in place to prevent these risks from happening. We want to mitigate risks. We want to prevent these things from happening before they occur. Once data gets leaked out of a business, it could have significant impact, financial impact to a business. Server security is something that is imperative for every single business. Even if you have one server, 100 servers, or thousands of servers, you need to be putting these things into place to improve on your security hardening and your security of your servers. Set up a domain and Active Directory. Active Directory is a Microsoft tool that lets you manage and control all of your computers on a network. This includes your workstations as well as your servers. Your servers need to be controlled, need to be mitigated from risk through this tool called Active Directory. So Active Directory essentially is the foundation for a lot of other security practices that we're going to be talking about throughout this video. With Active Directory in place, you then need to make sure that your servers are bound to AD. This is essentially having your servers not running standalone, but actually communicating into the Active Directory infrastructure. Look at limiting or removing internet access for your servers. There's no real good reason that a server should need to go and access the internet. Browsing the internet essentially opens up that server to vulnerability, and you could download a malicious piece of software, malicious piece of code directly onto a server. Control access to those servers remotely. So in some instances, you may need to be able to access a server from outside of your office. You've essentially exposed your server out onto the internet for anybody to be able to snoop and see what is going on. The best thing you can do is set up something like a VPN, which is a trusted tunnel, it's a secure tunnel between your home, for example, and your office. You VPN in, and then from there you can get into the server. Look at setting a 5-minute lockout policy on a server. If a server is idle for at least 5 minutes, have it locked. Servers need to be backed up. They contain business data, business systems, customer information that is imperative for that business to operate. So if you lose the data, you could be in trouble, right? So make sure that you've got those servers backed up and that they are backed up regularly. Additionally, make sure that those server backups are sent off-site. There's no point in having servers backed up and those backups residing in the same building as the servers, and then your server room catches fire, your building burns down, or there's flooding or something like this happens, and then you've essentially lost your servers and you've lost the backups of those servers. So get those backups sent off-site. Ensure that your servers are regularly patched. Companies such as Microsoft, for example, that will release patches every single month to your Microsoft Windows Server fleet. Microsoft released these patches for good reason. They have identified that there are vulnerabilities on your servers, on the particular operating system of the server, so that will release security patches and updates to fix these vulnerabilities. If your server is bound to Active Directory, then it's likely that the server itself also has an active local admin account. The local admin account is nice if you need to be able to access the server by not using the AD credentials. But the problem is a lot of businesses neglect how important it is for this password, this local administrator account, to be routinely monitored, checked, and controlled. Only the right people should have access to a domain administrator or an enterprise admin. You shouldn't be giving out this privilege to just anybody. This is essentially full access privilege to your entire Active Directory and anything connected into it. So give this permission sparingly. If you have file servers or file shares or folders out on your network, ensure that you've got adequate security and permissions in place across those files and folders. Don't just have it all open. If you have a file server that is accessible by everybody in the business, that's not a good practice to have. So different folders, different departments. HR should only be able to access HR. Your marketing department shouldn't be able to go into your finance folder and see everybody's pay. It's a good practice to have that anybody who uses a system from an IT administrator perspective should probably have two accounts. One that has the relevant domain admin / enterprise admin permissions if they need that. And the other account would be another standard administrator account that has access to other systems. Look at disabling earlier versions of SMB, in this case SMB version 1. Protocol for file sharing that is unsecure. Newer protocols have superseded this and are already implemented and in use across your servers, so there's no need to be using SMB version 1. Look at disabling earlier versions of SSL and even early versions of TLS. Similar to the SMB, the SSL and TLS earlier versions are legacy now. They have security vulnerabilities that have been thought and found out. So there are newer versions of TLS, newer versions of TLS security in place that supersede these early versions, so you don't need to be using these early versions anymore. From time to time, it's good to go into DHCP and see what's going on. Review logs and see what computers have been getting allocated IP addresses. If there are unknown computers or unknown MAC addresses that have been detected in your DHCP logs, it could mean that somebody has been allocated an IP that you did not authorize. Somebody could be plugging into the network and they've just been given an IP and you don't know who this person is. So just put into a good routine to go into DHCP and see what's going on. Don't use self-signed certs for external facing sites. Use the HTTPS protocol with a secure certificate attached to it from a trusted security advisor. Remove legacy operating systems. Windows 2003 is a legacy server. That server no longer exists. You can't get 2003 anymore. So Microsoft will not release patches for Server 2003, which means if you're running legacy operating systems, then those operating systems are essentially open and vulnerable to attack. So that was it on server security. I hope you found it helpful. Next time, we are going to be talking about network and firewall security and the things that you can be putting in place to improve on your network hardening security footprint.